All right, so I have something to tell you guys, but this obviously is not gonna work. So just give me a second and I'm gonna share with you what it is. So in last week's video, we spoke about the AI therapists, the machine robot therapists, marketing aggressively, and drying up referrals for real therapists like you and me. Now, we spoke about the importance of messaging and headlines and subheadlines, and how important it is to have the right words to communicate what we do and who we serve. This is important for people like you and me with really small businesses, and even for huge businesses who are advertising on the Super Bowl. Messaging is really important. But today, we're gonna talk about something else that our messaging actually points to that many people don't even think about when it comes to private practice. And it might even be more important than the messaging. In fact, it's what the messaging points to. And I'm wondering, do you know what I'm talking about? Do you know what this thing is? If you don't, you must. But the good news for you today is that's what we're gonna talk about. All right, so what I'm talking about is an offer. Now you see, as therapists, we don't often think about how we package our services. And in fact, most of us have an offer that is really quite boring. And that's not really our fault. No one ever told us about this or how to package or even what an offer was. And I know that it was new for me, but today we're gonna talk about how we can package our services in such a way that make it sound appealing and exciting. And the good news is, this is not just hype, but what we do offer, the therapy that you do, is actually very helpful and very valuable. And so what we're gonna talk about is how we can package our offer in such a way that potential clients get excited about it and actually want to work with us and do therapy with us. All right, so let me talk a little bit more about this whole offer thing and why it's important for us as therapists. Now, let me start here. So as a therapist, we are service providers, right? When someone signs up to work with you, you provide a mental health service in exchange. And I would say that we fall into the category of service provider, very similar to like a plumber or a primary care doctor. Now, this is not a universal truth, but generally, most people know what a therapist does. Most people know what a plumber does and what a primary care doctor does, right? These are just some common examples. So I walked onto the street and asked 10 random people, what does a therapist do? You'll probably get a lot of people say, well, you help people feel better, or whatever the case may be. Same thing with a plumber. What I'm really trying to say is they don't need too much education on the actual service you provide, generally speaking. Now, being a service provider like this, where the common public already has a sense of what you do, has a good side and a bad side. The good side is we don't have to spend too much energy educating people on the overall benefits of mental health care and therapy. For the most part, again, not universally, many people understand that. Now, the bad news, though, is that people have a preconceived notion of what mental health therapy is or of what XYZ is. And so then they get stuck thinking like that. And oftentimes that thought is a little bit too broad, a little bit too dull, and is not specific or is not really exciting at all. Now, when we don't create offers or work on packaging our offer or our service in an exciting and new and a fresh way, people are stuck thinking in the old way or the way that they just imagined it to be. And let me tell you, if you ask people on the street what a mental health therapist does, although it might be generally correct, it's not a great description. It's not all that exciting. That's where we have to come in and package our offer really, really well. And we compare this to some of the new startup companies that are providing AI therapy and the advertising they're doing. They're coming out with a new and novel service, and they're also advertising in such a way that it's captivating attention, right? It's saying, well, mental health care needs more than once a week, or all this data-driven stuff, or, your therapist is only there, 1 hour out of however many hours are in a given week. And these things are capturing attention. Now, do I agree with the service and the product? No, I don't think AI is going to replace therapists, nor should it. At the same time, we have to be honest that their advertising and their offer comes across as much more exciting and much more appealing than the offers that many of us, myself included, have out in the public. And so now let's get practical and talk about how to actually do that. So before we dive into how to craft therapy-specific offers, we're going to take a look at some real-world examples from some big companies you've probably heard of before. I always find it helpful to look at offers from all sorts of businesses. Helps me get my creative juices flowing. So let's take a look. So let's look at Netflix real quick. Right here, their main offer is in their hero section with the headline, unlimited movies, TV shows, and more, starting at $8.99. It's very obvious what they're offering, how much it costs, and then you can easily put in your email and get started right away. And here's Whole Foods. And as a grocery chain, they're going to have a bunch of different offers for different things. But right here on the homepage, you're going to see one that says, get your first delivery free on orders of $25 or more with Prime. And this is an example of an offer right up front. And here's Casper, the mattress company. And I went right to their homepage, and you can see here they have this countdown and a very clear offer. Save up to 25% on mattresses. Another really clear call to action. Just click that button to shop the mattresses. All right, so here we are in my notes. Welcome in. You're here at the source. And now we're going to get to the good stuff. How do we actually craft a therapy-specific offer? Now, a couple things we need to consider before actually doing that. And these are really important. So number one, we want people to see therapy as an investment rather than a loss of income. All right. In other words, we want to focus on the value and the ROI, the return on investment. A lot of people think about how much they spend on therapy, but we don't often think about how much you're actually going to save by investing in therapy. Now, this is largely going to come down to how we communicate, the things we write, the words we use, and we'll talk more about that in a little bit. But now this kind of touches on this topic here, which is about ethics and remaining ethical. Right now, as therapists, of course, we want to be ethical and do everything correctly. Right now, that means we're never going to guarantee results. Right? You're not going to give people a money-back guarantee. Absolutely not. Right? That is something we do not want to do, and nor do we need to. Right? But what we can kind of think about is focusing on benefits while also highlighting the costs of not treating the issue that we help to treat. Let me give you a really quick example. So if you work with people who deal with anxiety, some of the copy is going to talk about the benefits of having anxiety that's improved, or less anxiety, or feeling relief from anxiety. So you'd focus a lot on talking about that and describing that. And so what we're doing here is helping people think of therapy as an investment rather than just a loss of income. And so we're helping them think about the long-term ROI, which in general, people should feel like they're getting more from their purchase than they're putting in. Don't we all want that when we purchase or consume any service? We want more value than the amount that we put in. And so that's one thing we want to begin to highlight. And so the next thing we want to do is determine who it is that we're going to serve, kind of think about our specialty or our niche. If you want more on this topic, that's in the last video. I'm going to leave a link down below. But generally speaking, for us small private practices, our best offer will be to smaller niches within the larger population of mental health. And again, this could be a population, it could be a specialty, it could be even a location. I mean, get really creative with the niches here. And let me tell you, you can always change niches, you can add more, take things away, right? A niche is a small subset that we are going to market to. And this is going to be the best way for us to create offers is to a particular niche. And that's going to help us to create a more specific and hopefully more valuable offer to that group of people. And so once we lock that in, we can then start crafting the actual offer. And now keep in mind, we can have multiple offers, right? In the Whole Foods example, you can see their whole page is filled with multiple offers. Offers for this kind of grocery, offer for this delivery. And as therapists, we can also consider having multiple offers. But for now, let's just get good at crafting one. And then another general principle is that offers in some sense need to be irresistible. I put that in quotes because who knows what that actually means. But in other words, people need to feel like it would be absurd to not take you up on the offer. So now let's talk about a couple ways you can actually craft an offer for your practice. Now remember, these are just examples. They're hopefully inspiration for you to build off of, right? Come up with your own. If you do come up with your own, put them down in the comments. I would love to know. So one way could be to add structure, right? So rather than simply discussing that you work with moms, describe it with structure. For example, in our work, we have a structured path through the first year of motherhood, right? Or another one, instead of we'll meet weekly, describe the work as moving through stages. We start in the stabilization phase where we get your sleep, your panic, and your day-to-day functioning under control, and then we move on through the different stages, right? Now, not every therapist or every modality is gonna fit this particular framework, but hopefully it's giving you some ideas, right? Another one would be to describe your work in parts and frameworks, kind of like above. Right? So for example, I use a 3-part framework. I call it blank. My approach combines blank and blank. And so the general principle here is adding structure. And this is a way you can really package your therapy offer that can seem new and fresh and also gives the client a really good understanding of exactly what they're signing up for. Another kind of offer you can create is to appeal to humanness, right? And this is going to be in contrast to a lot of the AI therapy that we're seeing out there. An example, you don't need more information about your anxiety. You need someone who knows your history, who notices when your voice changes. And in this sample piece of copy, the offer here is about having a therapist who's truly human. And this offer is directly competing with the AI therapy out there. So that's another way to create and craft an offer. Some other offers that you can think about are these non-traditional therapy services. So you're going to see people advertising for intensives or groups, right? Now I know groups are a little bit more common in the therapy space, but you can have all sorts of different groups or creative groups or groups for this population or that population. And this is often something that could really help increase the appeal to your offer. And then another thing you can do is thinking about additional elements that you can add to your offer. So for example, maybe you have custom worksheets or custom videos or custom assets that a client can use and consume when working with you. And these would be things specific to your practice alone. And so maybe you do DBT therapy and you have an in-house video series of you walking clients through each and every skill, right? That's just an example. Or maybe you have some sort of app or something like that. But we can be really creative here. So it's not just, oh, you do therapy with me once a week, but actually as a customer in this practice, you're going to get this as well, which is exclusive to this practice and really helps provide you with more value. And so these are just a couple of examples of offers that you can be in crafting for your therapy practice. So once we have an idea of what our offer is going to be, we then want to communicate that offer really clearly where potential clients can see it. And for therapists or small business owners, there's two places I would suggest you start communicating your offer. One is going to be the hero section of your web pages. And number two, I would suggest we create a separate section on the web pages that will communicate this offer really clearly. Let's actually hop into the computer now so I can give you some examples. All right, so let's start with the hero section. If you're not sure what that is the first section you'll find on any given web page. Now I mocked this one up just for the video, so nothing on it is real. But let's go through the different components of the hero section. So arguably, the most important part is going to be the headline, right? This is what people are going to read first. And we want to make our offer as clear as possible within the headline and the subheadline. And we want to talk about who we are and who we serve. Now, more on that in the previous video. There'll be a link down below. But if we look at this one right here, it says not an algorithm, a therapist who stays. So a couple things. One, it says a therapist. So we know that this person is a therapist. This is what the business is, and this is what they do. So really, really clear. You can also tell that from this headline, they are trying to combat some of the AI therapy that's going around. So they're trying to appeal to human connection, right? They're not an algorithm, the relationship, all kind of centered around that. So this is what that headline targets, right? And that's very obvious with the word algorithm and stays, right? Now, if you go down to the subheadline, it says OCD responds to relationship, not apps. And so we're going a little further. We're going to see something like OCD. So this person is an OCD therapist. This is the issue they would treat. Now, if I was to redo this, I might say something like OCD up here and say an OCD therapist who stays. So I might incorporate that in the main headline here. And then if we go further on the subheadline, it says real therapy with a therapist who knows your history and will be in your corner 6 months from now. So again, we know right from this headline and subheadline that it's a therapist who works with OCD and is building their practice around human connection. So that's what we want with the headline and subheadline. Now, again, we can get really creative. We can change this up. If we weren't going after the AI kind of bots and things like that, it could be totally different, right? We could take a different angle. And we can always be changing up our headlines and subheadlines, right, as we continue to grow our practices. And the next component of the hero section that's really important is the call to action. And it should make it really clear what the next step is. And in this example, they're going to be booking a free consultation, and they're going to do that when they click that button. And in my opinion, when you click this, it should go to a calendar that they can then book that free consult with. No ambiguity. They know exactly what to do next. Then another component of this hero section is the image, right? And this is where it can be really creative. Some people have images, some people have graphics or illustrations, but this person is looking like they're free and they're happy, hopefully representing the outcome of the OCD treatment that they'll get when they work with this particular therapist. And so all four of these components work together to let the potential client know who you are, who you serve, what your offer is, and what they can do next in order to get that offer. All right, so that's the hero section. And again, just by putting work into this, you're already going to be standing out above the crowd. All right, let's hop into this other section that I also think would be a great addition to any website. And if you do this, you're going to be way ahead of the curve, because I definitely don't see most therapists doing this. And this is a separate section that describes what it's like to actually work with you or your practice. And I think this is a great section to lay out your offer. Okay. Now, if you look at this one, we have a simple title, which is what it's like to work with us. It's really clear. And then we have a couple of different components here. So this little paragraph on the right, it says we don't offer generic weekly sessions with vague goals. We offer a structured path, one with a clear beginning, defined stages, and a real map of where you're going, right, et cetera, et cetera. And you can tell that this made up practice here is trying to package their offer in a way that's really appealing, right? And my guess is that a lot of therapists who do very structured work or are very goal-oriented, right, this kind of description would work pretty well with some tweaks and things like that. And if you go a little further, they then have these different boxes that kind of phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4, phase 5, right? And it's really clear the process. So there's a couple of things that are really helpful about this. Number one, it gives the client a really good sense of what it's like to actually work with you. And then number two, it is like a package. It's your offer, right? This is your offer packaged, right? In a way that's really appealing and really interesting and actually something people might be interested in, right? And so not every modality or every practice is going to fit this kind of packaging, but I want you to consider like your current therapy style or practice, whatever it is, right? No need to change that at all. But let's go ahead and think about how we can package it in a way that's appealing. And then from there, how can we build it into our website in a section like this? This is going to be my challenge to you. So if you're goal-oriented and you're structured, something like this would really work. And if you're thinking of something different, I want to know what you're doing. Put a comment down below. Let me know how you're repackaging your offer. All right, so that will do it for this video. I hope you found it helpful. I hope you learned something. And if you're interested in getting more help with marketing or anything private practice related, you can join my entirely free community by clicking the link down below. It's a place where you can interact with me directly, and I will respond with in-depth and hopefully practical answers and responses. Again, entirely free. Link is down below. Other than that, I hope to see you in the next video.